Show addresses the needs and issues concerning members of the United States Armed Forces and their families. It is a weekly 1-hour live interactive internet radio and television broadcast that provides a positive outlet for American veterans to express their views and opinions about topics of interest to them, such as fitness, family, finance, education, entertainment, and empowerment. Vetchat Show not only gives veterans a voice, but also connects the viewers with the community through monthly panels of experts to provide resources geared towards enabling the veteran to combat discussed concerns. And with us in the studio now is a Mission Continues Fellows named Claude Copeland. Welcome to Vetchat Show.
Thank you for having me on, Trent. This is an honor.
Well, okay, great. It's an honor for you to be here, and I'm very excited to hear your story and share a little bit about who you are and what you do. So why don't we start from there? Tell us a little bit about your military background, please.
For myself, I'm an Army veteran. I actually spent my time overseas through my whole 4 years. I spent a year in Korea. Then I was transferred to Germany. I served 15 months in Iraq during Operation Iraqi Freedom, and then finished the rest of my time in Germany where I ETS'd.
And why don't you share for us a little bit about some more of your civilian career and education and background so we have a greater understanding?
Well, since I've been home, I've been pretty much through the CUNY system. I started at Queensborough Community College where I received my associate's degree. And currently I'm in my last semester at CUNY, Queens College, where I'm going for a master's in history.
And how has that led you to do what you're doing now, and which we'll talk right away about, is the mission continues, your involvement and your fellowship? Well,
actually, fortunately through the CUNY system, they've had a very strong veterans program. And initially, it was through another program where I learned about the Mission Continues. I received an email about an interesting program called the 4 Block, which was run by two veterans themselves, two gentlemen, Mike Abram and Francisco Mena. And it includes all, Marines, Navy, Air Force, Army, in trying to transition veterans into the civilian world, teach them, how to do their quote-unquote elevator speech when going on interviews, how to learn about networking, and also just about office life. It's very different. Even just the idea of having women in the workplace, depending on if you're in a mostly male environment. And there I met a Mission Continues fellow who was in the Delta class of 2012. He told me about the program. It sounded great. I liked that, it was something where I could be involved in my community, which was something I was trying to get into larger since I've been home. And I was fortunate enough to be accepted for the program. And currently now, for my organization that I'm working with is called the Northwest Bronx Community and Clergy Coalition.
Okay. We have an idea of where you're at in terms of your involvement, but can you tell us a little bit about why are you so passionate about, per se, this cause that you're doing, and specifically working with housings?
Well, just to get in a little bit about Northwest Bronx, since it is a coalition, one of the first things they did get involved in, because the group's been in the Bronx since the 1970s, and it originally addressed, there was the issue of just the Bronx was almost literally burning at the time in the Northwest. There was just decrepit treatment of the housing, they had, unfortunately, empty buildings that, weren't being used, and people were just in that area were going through depressive type condition, because they didn't have work, and it was a very low time for the Northwest. So they were able to gather people together to be able to start this grassroots social justice group, and it expanded into also addressing education reform, living wage reform, which is, a large issue in the Bronx, and, green initiatives to try and be able, try and provide, better living conditions for, future Bronxites. And currently what I'm dealing with the campaign I'm involved in now is a tenant reform with a group called Chestnut Holding. The owner, an individual named Jonathan Weiner, actually just in the Northwest Bronx owns over 30 apartments, and they're having issues of mold, like black mold, rats, wow. And there's some areas when you go into the building, it looks like it's falling apart. The ceiling's coming in, the floor is ripped up, and has his company, they've been ignoring their tenants, and even with the supers, they've addressed for them to have to go through Chestnut Holdings to be able to even just do their job, and no one's been doing anything. Like the tenants have been trying to help each other, and it's hard to do that. Like when you have over 50 units in just one apartment, and also just the language barrier, sometimes within the building, like for people to be able to communicate with each other and know if like someone's hurting or not. And it's been a big issue for a long time.
So what's a day-to-day like life in terms of your fellowship and what you do with your Mission Continues Fellowship? What's that like on a day-to-day and average day of work?
Well, right now, it mostly helps about helping set up tenant associations in the buildings, because there's only so much work that the coalition can do. It's not that we're not willing to help people, but we can't do the work for them. Like we can't tell the media that they're having problems because they're not gonna take us seriously because we don't live there. We're not trying to sensationalize anything. Like, this is a real problem that the people have, and it has to come from the people that are going through it for it to be, something that they would consider real. And it's getting the buildings together, working as a group, and even on a larger fact is just setting up a coalition of these buildings to say, hey, we're here, we need your help, and, like, pretty much, do your job. Like, why are you going to own these buildings if you're going to just let them go to waste? Like, what is your goal of us, being here and you not working with us? There's been incidents in even some buildings where there's no cooking gas, and they have to have hot place to be able to cook their food. And one of the largest issues now, considering it's winter, is heat and hot water. They have to constantly call 311. Even from myself, we'll call for the buildings and individuals. And to be able to let them know, because the thing is, if there's just one person, trying to drive for this building, like, it's just going to seem like, like one, irritated tenant who isn't, just trying to make noise. And it's a large feat because, people don't know their rights. They don't know that, there's a responsibility for the owner to them, not just for them paying the rent, and it's hard because, most people don't like to be vocal, and, but the thing is, like, it's a necessary thing because, like, they have obligations to the people, like, morally, and as business owners, like, these are the people that they're supposed to help, who they're, paying for a service, and they're not receiving that service.
How important do you think it would be if some of the actual landlords would have to be compelled to live there? Do you find that some of the people that are having problems with the landlord, that quite often the landlord is not readily accessible, lives somewhere else?
Well, that's actually the case in part with Chestnut Holdings. The owner actually lives in Riverdale, and he doesn't live in an apartment. He lives in what some might even consider a mansion. It's a very large household, and he doesn't have issues with heat and hot water. We've just for myself, since I've been working with Northwest Bronx, we've taken 2 actions. One was going up to the Chestnut Holdings office in Riverdale, bringing them a petition with about a group of 30 to 40 of us, describing the changes that they'd like to see in their apartments, and not just their specific apartments, but like Chestnut Holdings apartments in general, because like getting from word of mouth from the individuals that live there, this has been a constant and consistent thing within these apartments. It's mainly addressed, for heat and hot water, extermination because, rats and roaches, more professional staff, because even trying to communicate to Chestnut Holdings about their problems, they've had incidents, well, not incidents, they either get a voicemail or they don't receive anyone to be able to call them back when they do speak to someone who says that they will call them back. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's such a gray area in regards to sometimes, even another issue is about like payments that are made in, actually, let me give you the proper term. It's called MCIs. It's called Major Capital Improvements.
Okay.
It's if the door is broke and the Chestnut Holdings has a contractor come to fix it. What happens is the landlord is allowed to take a loan to be able to fix the door, or it'll probably be various doors in the apartment, to be able to pay the contractor to have it fixed. So once the loan's taken out, then of course there's an obligation to pay the loan, and that obligation is left to the tenants. Now the tenants will pay for this to the amount that is owed, but what has happened in the buildings that we've been helping is that they continue to pay after the amount has already been fulfilled. And like this is, the prices vary on apartments, and the amounts, and I mean it's not just one thing. If a window gets fixed, then it continues for these continued payments. And I mean, it's almost like trying to price out the people that live there, because after a while, it goes into, hundreds of dollars like that they have to pay extra on top of their rent. And I mean, on paper, it's questionable, like if this is legal or not. And that's something that we're able to answer for them and help them address.
That's great that you're able to have somebody, because it seems like just with the bureaucracy alone and the time investment and the loss and suffering of quality of life, there's only so much you could do. How is this impacting the different dwellings that you have in the quality of their life in terms of their health or their mental being and keeping their family together as they suffer through navigating?
Well, I think the great thing is actually bringing the people together. When we have tenant association meetings, even considering in some of the apartments, they'll have two separate sides, and then they get to see each other face to face, and they'll realize it's not just themselves. And also, considering the area that we're in, it's a very diverse area, but mostly it will be, English and Spanish speaking individuals, and right. Some only speak one or the other. And, we're able to, say like, if someone's bilingual, and just able to like help communicate, because it'll be next door neighbors who don't even know each other because they can't communicate because there's the language barrier. And I mean, the thing is, having them know that like us as a group is there for them, but knowing that each other is there for them, and that they can address small and large issues on their own, and just try to build off of that, because like we just try to tell them, it's just the one owner. He owns 30 odd buildings. If you consider the numbers of people that you have on your side, it's just that, we're just shining a light on that, like, because they don't see each other, and just realizing you have more power. It's just you don't know how to bring that together. And that's all we're trying to do, is help build that relationship, so that way they realize the empowerment that they have to bring, positive changes. Because this when it's like 18 degrees outside, just temperature-wise, and when the wind hits the building, and you have no heat, and your windows aren't properly closed, and you have children living there, and then you have to consider with pests, and it sets off these whole kind of things. It's hard for me to consider, because I don't live in those kind of conditions. I can only empathize. But like, I think when they see that there's other people who are going through the same thing, who are working towards this, it'll want them to work towards it too. And it's just about being vocal, like having a voice. That's all we're trying to, have the people realize, that that no one hears them because like they're suffering silently, in their homes, and it's sad.
And unfortunately, perhaps sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And where would these tenants or the people that would ask for help go to look and find out where their rights are as a tenant in particular, inside your organization or outside the nonprofit? Where does one find rights?
Well, I mean, you'd have to. 311's a very good start, and also just state organizations like the Housing Preservation and Housing Preservation Committee that helps them realize, like, if they're not receiving heat and hot water, that's something that they shouldn't that should be deducted off of their rent. There's a commitment to that if they're not receiving certain services in their building, they shouldn't be paying the full price for not getting, the full service. I mean, there's a whole housing division, and it's broken into small groups, which kind of makes it a little hard, because then you're not sure who's actually the one who's going to be taking the action. But I mean, 311 is pretty much the larger body, because they'll send inspectors to view the building, and they can, if they see that something's wrong in the building, they can address it with violations to the owners. And when these violations are received, this is something that the owners know that they are compelled to act on. But the thing is, there has to be so many people noting this to actually be a violation, because like I said, it can't just be one person in the building for them to be able to do it. And I mean, like I said, most of the work comes down to the tenants, and just I mean, even for myself, I didn't realize all the different, like you said, bureaucracy behind it, because, right, there's paperwork, there's people you got to speak to. But thankfully, like there are the groups that come in, and even like our group, we're working with other groups like, New York Communities for Change, NYCC, that get to other buildings, because I mean, it's a large problem. It's not just a Bronx thing. And it's it's not a Northwest Bronx thing. It's not a South Bronx. It's it's can be found throughout New York City. It's just we're just starting here and trying to help where we can.
But as also a informed citizen or someone looking to get into a place, say you're not at a place, I'm going to pass an iPad over to Claude, and maybe he's familiar with some of this, but there are also, check the history, because it's out there in terms of where you want to move to, and landlords that have a history of violation, they do make lists from, right now I'm passing the public advocate, Bill de Blasio, and this is common information that you could find on some of the landlords. And as he scrolls through the list, I was just going to ask him to comment, does he know any of them that are on that in their situation that you've come across?
For myself, this is all new information. Well, actually, there you go. Well, here, number 20.
This is a list of, why don't you tell them what this list is? It's top complaints. This is a list of tenant complaints, and I'm looking at my watchdog list. It is, let me pull, NYC's worst landlord, and it's broken down by an address. It's a website by Bill de Blasio, his public advocate for New York City, and it breaks out the 50 worst landlords, Bronx buildings, Brooklyn buildings, Manhattan buildings, Queens by borough. Or you could type in address and do a little bit of research of your own and check the history and know the status. And as I click on here and I'm walking through what we're looking at here and telling the story, click on the Bronx tab and it populates a whole bunch of buildings and areas, and then it lists who those landlords are and where they are. So maybe you could share one of the stories, or if you've had any interactions with any of those.
Well, actually, I saw on one of them, it had mentioned Jonathan Weiner. But just speaking with personal stories that I've received, in one location, the family has a large incident of rodents in their home, and they have a newborn baby, and just for the child's own safety, in worrying about these rodents in their home, they sleep with the child, and to avoid, God forbid, if one of the rats should enter into the crib and hurt the child. And also, on top of that, just because they don't have heat in their building. At the times when they need it, late night is when it's not on. And I mean, there's so many stories. It's just it's unfortunate that we're here in what you would consider a metropolis, and there's people living in such substandard conditions, and it's these large owners who take these buildings and don't take the responsibility to keep them up for the people that live there. Because like you were even addressing a little bit before, they've tried to have Jonathan Weiner meet with them at various tenant association meetings, and
how did that go?
And he wouldn't show. Sometimes he would send a representative, and sometimes there wouldn't be anyone at all. It's upsetting to the people because, I mean, they're not asking for anything, outside of what landlord's responsibility should be. They just want to have, the security of when they go to their homes, that there aren't people that are there doing dealings who don't even live there. What's so much to ask for, hot water, and God forbid you can't even, make your own food in your house because you don't have cooking gas. It's just, it adds so much, extra to, not that life is hard, but it's why have so much extra challenges that you feel like you've been working towards making an ease to, and have a comfort of at least saying I'm going home, I'm getting away from the everyday, and like being around my family. And when you go home, you have the extra worry of like, is there going to be hot water when I get home? Is there going to be heat? And God forbid you have children, are they going to be sick? And the elderly as well. It's rough, and even when we get out on actions, one we had 2 weeks ago, just when it was prior to the snowstorm, one of the individuals earlier that week, when we were calling to see who might be out there, we were just saying, there possibly might be a snowstorm. Actually, it was one of the individuals who work with NYCC, was being asked, would you be able to be out there? It might be a snowstorm. He pretty much said, well, it's cold in my house. Well, I'm not worried about if it's cold outside. I want to take action now, and it's true. It's a sad fact because, it's, it's when you have to call people the responsibility to do their jobs, it's when they have a responsibility over, so many individuals, who can't represent themselves to this, because the idea of someone owning property, you think they take care of it. Mm-hmm. And that's not the case. And it's not just a single case, it's multiple cases, and it's in a large area where there's just so many people and families, and like all the stories, it's very emotional sometimes to deal with, just because when you leave and you're help people to feel empowered, but their condition hasn't changed yet. It's still something to work for. You can't say if it's going to take a few months to a year, or years, unfortunately. And sometimes if they're able to be able to work it out to have things improve, or if they unfortunately might have to move away and hopefully go into a better situation, or maybe something the same, and then have to start all over again. It's it's rough.
Well, New York City, particularly this past season, the winter season, known for, New York City does have its drastic seasons and climates, from the winter to the spring to the summer. There is a great difference. So not only at times might you need heat in the winter, but sometimes we have to stay cool in the summer just as well. And we were going through a particular season that happened to have had another impact within the area in terms of Hurricane Sandy. Are there any additional ways that between the outreach and advocacy that you're doing, that you've seen or had interaction that have also been affected with the hurricane in any of your cases that you're going through?
Actually, I can say no. I think just because of the location of the Bronx,
Right.
it was able to be less impacted. But I can only speak for the Northwest Bronx. It could have been different in the South Bronx, which is a little closer to towards like water. I'm not too sure about
City
like
Island has water in the Bronx,
Right.
and also around Riverdale, and some of these places are that Claude is mentioning. For those that don't know the Bronx area, are more inland, and they are more densely populated, and the economic conditions aren't as such that they could afford to live in some of these places. Because actually, some of the places that those two aforementioned, Riverdale and that area and City Island, they actually have more income than some places in Manhattan. So those are some really nice places, and they're not impacted the same. So yes, I just wanted people to have an understanding that, or thinking like, okay, the Bronx you have to really know the history and the geography layout of the Bronx and the areas that Claude is talking about, and helping advocate for those that need help. It's very diverse. So in terms of the fellowship work, not only does Claude and myself also as a fellow have work within the various organizations, maybe for those that want to get a little bit more insight of the Mission Continues, there are assignments and things of that nature in addition to the work that we do that helps us develop and grow as well as continue to serve. How has your planning so far in doing those assignments, or keeping up or balancing between doing the work that you do as well as the work that I do in marking almost a 1 month assignment project due?
Well, I think in regards to the assignments, it helps keep me focused on just the challenge of remembering that in regards to what I'm doing for the community, that I have to also be accountable to myself.
Yes.
And just maintaining communication with the people that I'm working with, having my knowledge of the issues that are, affecting the people in Northwest Bronx. Because, for myself, I live in Queens, which is, outside of the borough. Before actually
You're right over the bridge, man. You're like, I could get to you quicker than I could get to Manhattan, by the way.
That's true. But prior to this, I wasn't familiar at all with the Bronx at all. And I mean, it's a large community, and it's just there's so it's so diverse, and having my own misconceptions of the Bronx, being broken down, and how the people live and interact here. It's
definitely changed over the years. You mentioned many years ago it was a different scene in the Bronx when it was not as developed, and people would watch. It's funny traveling and compare stories to the Bronx the way it was in Fort Apache and the burnt down buildings, and you could go somewhere in another country and really some people may still think that it's like that.
Right.
Yeah, so those stigmas and stereotypes, we have come away, but we have a long way to go as well. And I'm glad that you highlight the work that you do, because so many people take it for granted of having those things in life that make them comfortable. Who would think that you're living in those conditions? And even if someone was to tell you, there's a difference between telling that and, like you said, empathizing and feeling that. If you haven't personally went through it, it's very difficult to imagine not having those things that you need in your apartment to be comfortable, such as what you mentioned, the heat, the hot water, or even having a refrigerator is not a luxury. Those things are necessary to improve the quality of life and have us all get through the day.
Right.
But in terms of just for comparison, also the assignments, I started getting into. We have regular assignments within a monthly mark, and it's helping me. I do it a little bit at a time, and it's good that you continually do it, but it's all self-paced and self-directed. So as long as you meet the goal, everybody's different. For depending on who you are and where you're at, it can challenge you to pretty much focus and guide you into balancing out your personal aspirations as well as professional, because if we're not taking care of ourselves too, and it's good that we have comrades, like I could look across with Claude, and he could help me out and I could help him out, because we're basically in the same community. So not only do we have national comrades that we could work together with, but it's good that we take the time out to work on ourselves and keep our relationships going that we have maintained, so we could support one another, because ultimately that's what we're here for.
Right.
Yes, so in terms of your 1 month mark or continuing to look through some of the curriculum, do you foresee any kind of service project or anything that you would want to do locally, or something that's really in your heart? Do you have a burning desire to accomplish anything?
Well, one of the campaigns that the Northwest Bronx has been working on has been with the Kingsbridge Armory, which is out in Northwest Bronx. They've been having developers try to be able to not redo, but I guess provide renovations to actually make it a living space now, because it hasn't been being used for almost like 20 years. It's been going on.
It is a landmark, so there's only so much you can do around that also.
Exactly. And the thing is, it's coming to a head soon about for the developer this year. And I'm sure that there's going to be events around it to try and maybe, help opening it, maybe even having the community itself, like, take part in, maybe helping to just, like, also provide, like, just outside of the area that's so huge, maybe taking part in, like, a little landscaping or something like that.
That's
and,
beautiful.
I was thinking if just taking part in that, as an addition, reaching out to the people, like, in New York and just the metro area of Mission continues, like, to see if, the volunteer to be involved in that, because it's really just about doing the service, because that's one thing that was motivating for me, was that since I've been home, I've been trying to find something for myself that's feels gratifying. And I was, the thing is, I was always thinking, like, waiting for the feeling to happen and not acting, but it's someone told me recently, you have to do the action before you can actually have the feeling of, completing something, and it's been very true, since I've been able to help at the Northwest Bronx and being part of, like, some of main right now the tenant campaign, but also smaller campaigns like the Kingsbridge Armory. It's I've been getting that feeling I've been looking for, like actually being a part of something, larger than myself that's, think, a positive change. And that's something I would try to pass on to anyone, like if you're still just searching for something, don't overthink it, just start doing it. Because, like, that'll just open the opportunity. You get yourself around the right kind of people. That's another thing, at the Mission Continues. Like, meeting individuals like yourself and others who, who want to bring positive change. Because sometimes you just have to, it's not that there's anything wrong with the people that you have there, but, like, if they're not doing anything, then you got to find the doers, and
Exactly.
get yourself part of that. And I've, like I said, like, I just feel very blessed of being part of the program, and I know you could speak the same to like when we actually did our orientation, you know, working at the Dream House.
Yes,
in LA.
why don't you talk about that?
Yeah.
Well, for people that are listening, we did have an experience, and it's a great feeling. I love collective work. I love the power of the collective, and we work as a team, and together everybody achieves more. And we do different types of service depending on our abilities of what we can do, because even if you have, even if you're differently abled, everybody can do something, maybe a little bit differently. I myself, we were at the Los Angeles Dream Center. I chose to paint, but as it turns out, Claude was nice with a hammer, and he helped build a playground. So although we served doing a project together that involved collective work of painting different floors and building a playground, I spoke on the show previously about the feeling of working with the painting group. Tell us a little bit about what you were doing with building that playground, and what was your experience and feedback?
Well, I mean, the experience, I can't say I'm a hammer man, because I usually, I can't say I've really done any construction around my home or outside of it. But, you know, I just thought it'd be good. You know, I'd like to kind of get hands-on when I have the chance to. And it was great, you know, just learning a little bit of, like, how to help, you know, set up, like, a bench. And, you know, we also did, like, some light landscaping, you know, just pulling a couple weeds, setting in some sprinklers, and just, and realizing, you know, like, even though, like, the people aren't there yet who are going to use it, it's still something that's going to be used in a good way. You know, like, this is going to be something that, like, hopefully will be there for years, that, you know, will bring positivity to people in their life who are at, you know, the Dream Center because of, I'm sure you addressed it because, you know, they're going through homelessness or, you know, like street kids. And to be able to start having some kind of positive influence to leading them on the right path, you know. And it's just, I mean, it's the small things that do count, you know. And I just found even from other individuals, too, who I was working with, you know, it was just, it's knowing that you're building something, you know. Like, I think that was the thing, too, you know, like you always hear sometimes, you know, like it's synonymous, like Jesus being a carpenter because he was helping build new ideas. Like, it, you know, this was great, just helping, realizing that I'm building something that even though I'm not going to use it for myself, I'm not even, you know, anywhere near to be able to go and look and view how it helped the people, I still know that it is going to bring something positive. And, you know, I left there feeling, you know, not only good just because I was able to actually say I made something, but because, I mean, it's, you know, it feels almost, it's kind of hard to put into words. It was just,
well, what comes to mind for me is gratifying. If one thing, because we were serving together and doing service above and beyond self, and it was gratifying to even know that what we're doing was meaningful, purposeful, and will change somebody's life. And even if we were a small part of that and we played individual different roles, in your case, if you were doing the playgrounds for the future of the children that and the families that were residents of it, they may not be able to see it immediately, but the residents from my painting perspective, they were able to see that right away. Right. So I did experience the awe of them doing a collective clap and thank you, right. And knowing that those claps were not for any of us individually, but was for the power of the collective work that was done for all of us, and the meaningful work that we do in the community. And it's appropriately named Dream Center because it is important to dream and help connect people through the networks that we have and the positive and inspirational and roles as leaders that we have, and being able to continue to serve and give back and get up and do something positive, inspire others and connect others and lend a helping hand and bridge that. Such as we had a past guest by the name of Caesar, and he had a dream, he had a big vision, and I'm sure he has more details, but wouldn't it be wonderful to have, use some of those ideas that we have in the collective organization of, say, the Kingsbridge Armory, and use that for people that are very passionate, that have programs, because this young man mentioned he has horses, and they have a lot of space. Right. So they have indoor and outdoor spaces. That'd be wonderful to start some kind of equine location that happens to, coincidentally, we're talking about the Kingsbridge Armory, happens to be within walking distance from not only the Kingsbridge Veterans Affairs, which hospital, James J. Peters, which also has a Mission Continues Fellows there as well, and being within walking distance to that Kingsbridge Armory, because I know the area, because I'm also on the other side of the street, which is Lehman College. So it has great traffic fare to accommodate high school, the education, and also is a key location because the Veterans Hospital is there, and it provides great opportunity. So I'm thinking big for all of us, because there are passionate people such as us and many more that stories don't always get heard and dots always connected. So if anyone's listening out there and wants to support, I just got inspired, so I have my inspiring moment in seeing a bigger picture and connecting the dots, because due to my logistics background, that's kind of what I do. So in these last remaining minutes that we have here on Vets Chat Show, is there anything else that you would like to add?
Well, addressing, since I can share with Caesar and yourself, being a CUNY student, I think it's great what they've been able to do with veterans, spreading information out there. And I would say, just as we were told, challenge them, like there's still more you can do. It's great working in CUNY, but like also to kind of broaden that out into the community. And I mean, not even just veterans, but students, like I think that's the time when you're in college, you have that influence of wanting to make a change in your life, not only in your career, but maybe your lifestyle, and bringing something larger about that in your local area. Because, like once you spread that example and it shows that it works, like it can go broader than what you might have first imagined. And I think that's the whole thing, that I just being part of the Mission Continues, like I remember when they said the first group that they had, it was like 3 people, and and it broadened into 70 of us being in this huge conference space, taking part of something that really is now nationwide. And there's still challenges. They say, go home, find a service project, do something. We know you're already at an organization, but why not do more? Because there's still more needed. And I mean, that's something that I can say is like brought that kind of idea in my mind. Like that sort of thinking. There is more I can still do. And I mean, I feel motivated to do that. And it's just really just taking action. That's the whole thing. Sometimes you can't, like I said, if you just get stuck in the thinking part of it, trying to build it that way, nothing will happen. It's more, you just got to start being a part of something, and then the rest will come to fruition for yourself.
And I certainly agree, and I am very grateful and have an attitude of gratitude many times, and don't take that for granted, and share those opportunities and knowledge through this vehicle that we have, because collectively it's a great thing, and it's a great feeling and a beautiful thing when vets serve together, and we continue to serve together, and that's why the fellowship is appropriately named The Mission Continues. And I wrote a poem that I have posted on my bio and press kit about why did I join the military, and I'll share it. And this poem helps me stay grounded, and I say it now and I share it because it helps me remember who I am, where I am, and where I came from, and why. And quite often I ask people why and how am I doing, and that part of the how am I doing and feedback is important, because I like to know issues that are impacting veterans to be of greater service to them, not what we think that they are, but address the real need that when you quite frankly ask them and they know that you care and they trust you, they'll tell you what those issues are. So it's great to hear so many stories, and I like to share why did I join the military as a working poem that I published. Why did I join the military? I serve, to help the helpless, to give hope to the hopeless, and to give a voice to the voiceless, and power to the powerless. I aspire to inspire and encourage others to do the same. Service above self and beyond self, I serve to serve. And the mission continues. And that's all the time that we have for today's episode of Vets Chat Show. I hope that you enjoyed it. It's been a very intriguing, interesting, diverse group of guests that we had today that have shared their stories with us on various levels. And I hope that our audience as well as our guests have learned more from each other, as I always do. So I thank our guests for stopping by today. I thank our staff, and I thank you, the audience, that continues to listen to us and show support for this programming, and not only the veteran community, but also the non-veteran community as well. We're so grateful. And I have a announcement before we leave off of this episode of Vets Chat Show, is that we have support from a sponsor, so a supporter. So I'd like to say thank you to a business owner. His name is Jeff Sheck, and he does Sheck Outdoors, which is a mobile marketing company. And one of his key signature brands that he's working with right now, since we are in New York City, is the New York Yankees fragrance, men and women. And for the baseball season spring training is underway, and the fragrance truck is out and about in the community. You could probably see more and hear more of it as the baseball season progresses. But don't be surprised, because we here at the Vets Chat Show are building loyalty to our listeners as well. So we have our number here. It's 646-797-3106. And what we will do in making this announcement at the end, not today, but next week, you can call in and you will have a sample of the New York Yankees exclusive official fragrance for men and women. And so we have only this is disclosure, 100 of them. 100. So the deal is we give the sample. You just provide a little bit of your information in terms of contact cell number, a email, and your name, and we will secure that. And you could either pick it up at the station or at another event that the Yankees will host, and we'll put all of that information of the details of that on our website, www.vetschatshow.com. This is Trent Love. Thanks for listening, and we appreciate you.
Nightline HD.
If it ain't a Nightline, it's the Flatline.
Oh, man, that was cool. I think we
Nightline Radio. Broadcasting all over the world. Keep it locked.